Hi folks, I'm Mark. Today it is just me doing another iPhone recording. Started doing these out of desperation, but now they're just kind of nice and casual and easy to do. I don't want to do them too much, but it's nice. Thanks for joining me for this short talk about video games because you listen to Quick Play. So let's get into it. It is episode 88, which is the one where we go back in time and get stuck in loops, but in a much more real sense. This is another captain's log in my Xbox Game Pass and the Steam Deck journey because I decided to move on from Game Pass because I didn't want to feel like I have to play these games and more am just playing what I want to play. And that has really taken root because most of the games on my rotation right now are all games I've played before and deeply love. Currently, there's 3 right now. So currently, Stardew Valley, which of course, but I bought it back on Steam early this year. In order to play it 1.6 update on my MacBook. I've already put in 200 something hours on Switch, but here I am again. Started a new game to see what's new, and recently picked it back up on my Steam Deck. Really after I recently put on the soundtrack in the background while I was working, and that did me in. But also Outer Wilds, which I wanted to replay for a while, just waiting for the moment I forgot enough about it to play it again. But also because as a patron for the Backlog Breakdown, I was able to recommend that they play it, so I'm replaying it alongside them. But then also Steamworld Dig, which I first played on Wii U nearly 10 years ago. And I'll probably replay Steamworld Dig 2 next. But all of this is a little odd and different for me. I'm generally not a repeat consumer kind of guy. Once I'd watch a movie or a TV show or play a game, I'm good. I've seen it, I've played it. I'll rewatch it or replay it if I'm experiencing it with someone else or I'm showing it to someone. But I'm not usually going to do this on my own. In one way, though, these are kind of new experiences with these games because I'm playing them on my Steam Deck, and so it's not that crazy different, but it's just kind of a way I'm still putting the Steam Deck through its initial paces. But there are a handful of things these games all have in common that I've realized. So number one, they all have really excellent gameplay loops. SteamWorld Dig is especially just super tight, really fast-paced in this regard. You dig down, you mine for jewels, you come back up and sell them, and you buy better equipment, and then you dig down deeper and mine for more jewels, and just keep going until you reach the end. It's nearly perfect. I fell back into playing it because I was playing Dave the Diver, which has a similar loop of you scuba dive for fish, you serve the fish at your sushi restaurant, you use the money to buy better equipment, and you do more scuba diving. But there's just a massive amount of other mechanics and more game and more story to Dave the Diver than just that. And that core loop, I feel like, kind of gets lost. How much they added into Dave the Diver is partly a testament to that game's strength, but it really made me yearn for the simplicity of SteamWorld Dig. So Dave is on pause, and but that leads me to number 2, and this is why I love a good loop so much. But a big part of what compels me to play games is the sense of accomplishment and productivity. I know it's not really accomplishment, not really productivity. It's, I get it. There's a context for that, but these games really hit that. It feels nice. It's just nice to do something achievable. Stardew Valley is really on its face the best example of where you're just choring all day, but it feels great to get stuff done. But also my experience of the puzzle box of Outer Wilds is also a little bit different this time as a replay, where I remember just enough to be systematic in my approach to solving the puzzle, even though I've forgotten the solution. I'm intentionally approaching things and doing things that are kind of helping me flip over all the pieces, finding those corners, and to kind of piece it back together. I am trying to be cagey about Outer Wilds because, like Jordan mentioned in the last episode, it's better left as unspoiled as possible. But I've noticed this productivity high that I can get from playing games can also take on a meta sense where it's like the productivity of beating games. And that's why having Game Pass eventually just became tiresome. I've mentioned before how just playing these games that were available to me, not necessarily were the ones I really wanted to play. It was just I've paid for them with my subscription, so therefore I will spend my time playing these games. Um, and also, like in the cycle of the 3 games I've mentioned, I'm occasionally dipping into a little bit of Splatoon 3, which, to its credit, is also an inherently familiar game because I've played Splatoon 1 and 2. And sometime Landry and Justin and Matthew of Watcher Gaming and I will all team up to get our butts kicked by some kids in Japan. But I've done a chunk of the story mode of Splatoon 3, and I'm not totally sure I'm having the most fun with my game time. I'm kind of playing it to have beaten the game, and like sometimes that's enough. That can still be fun, and it's not a bad game. It's really good. I just kind of sometimes after I play an hour of it, after the fact, I kind of wish that I had played Stardew Valley instead, which is kind of my own personal meme at this point. But that brings us to number 3, and commonality number 3. There's just something nice about playing comfort food games. This whole episode was kind of inspired by a text conversation with Parker Deal where he mentioned he's also in the mood to go back to a comfort food game. And I feel like we all tend to talk about like comfort games often in the context of like being in the middle of a crisis and kind of needing that just like video games are just video games, but like that kind of anchor point in a really hard time of life. Like you don't really need to go back to these games. I'm not in a difficult time right now. And that's like partly why I'm analyzing this for myself, because usually my approach to games is if I'm doing fine, I'm being productive. Like I'm spending time beating games, getting these experiences, digesting and consuming stuff to understand the medium. I think that's good and fine, but I also want to move out of that mindset that like that is the productivity mindset that needs to be churning all the time. As one quick clarification, I don't think comfort food means junk food. And these are very high quality games. It's just that they're already very familiar. And now that like in just this approach of when I have an hour before bed, it's really nice just to have like approach it from what I feel like playing and play that. So I'm replaying all these comfort food games. I'm trying to break out of that productivity mindset, and I'm just trying to enjoy my recreation of playing these games. Which, if you listen to the Backlog Breakdown, I mentioned those guys, and you should listen to them. It's a great podcast. All of this is not meant to be a dig at their backlog beatdown metagame, which is where you get a better score over the year based on beating games on your backlog instead of buying new ones. I think Josh and Nate would probably agree with me on a lot of things I've said so far, because the beatdown is not meant to be a productivity game on how many games you can beat in a year. It's just meant to promote good stewardship and playing the games you already own and pushing back against the temptation to always be buying more. As I say this, I realize there is an irony in that I'm quote unquote making them play Outer Wilds while I'm talking about just playing the games I want to play. So I hope you're enjoying that. But anyway, pushing back against the temptation of buying more. Now that I'm without Game Pass, I feel kind of unplugged from the hype cycle. I do feel a little left out. I know Billy and I recorded an episode a long time ago about having FOMO when you're not playing the latest game that everyone else is talking about. At the same time, it's been freeing to just play the games I want to play. And ultimately, at least in this season, I think I'm having more fun because of it. And anyway, this is really just like 10 minutes to cope with me not having a PS5 and being able to play Astro Bot. But what am I playing? I'll just go with Stardew Valley. I mentioned a few games, but Stardew Valley is the one. Thank you all for listening in. You can follow us on the major podcasting services, and you can find us on the proper socials at Quick Play Pod, and let us know what game are you are playing, or you have replayed or will replay just because you want to. Do that more. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks.